President Sandu, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're in the United States at a very key time for your country and for, obviously, Ukraine and what's going on around you. You've met with the top administration officials, many female leaders as well. I just wonder what they say to you behind closed doors.
They are very supportive. They keep encouraging us. I have been, together with my team, been encouraged over the years to fight for democracy, to fight against corruption. And now, of course, when we have the political opportunity to do what's right for my country, we do get a lot of support, and we are very grateful for that.
Well, what is it about you? You have just come and you've got an award, actually, a democracy award from former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright's organization. And a new report says that Moldova is a democratic bright spot in a world that's shifting towards autocracy. How do you explain that you, your government, and your country can maintain this brightness in that dark part of the world?
We believe in democracy. We have been fighting for democracy together with the Moldovan people for many years. Of course, Moldova is still a fragile democracy, but our objective was to strengthen the institutions, the democratic processes, and we're trying to do this as we promised to the people. Of course, the Russian aggression against Ukraine makes our life and everybody's life much more difficult, and our government has to spend a lot of time on managing different crisis situations, but we are still committed to our major objectives, and our major objective is to keep Moldova part of the free world, to make Moldova a true democratic country.
It is extraordinary to hear you speak like this, because we know that it's one of the poorest countries in the region, if not the poorest. You're sandwiched right there, slap against Ukraine, obviously Romania, your ally, and you have Russian forces in part of your country, some 1,500 so-called peacekeepers in a separatist part called Transnistria. So can I just ask you, are your American friends and others concerned, like everybody was at the beginning, that Moldova may go the way of, I don't know, Georgia or Ukraine, and that Putin had eyed, other countries on the border? Do you think that threat has passed for you, given the direction of the war?
Well, of course, Ukraine defends today its freedom, but it also defends Moldova's freedom, and we are very, very grateful to the brave Ukrainians. But the risks are still there, and even though there is not a military threat to Moldova these days, thanks to Ukraine, we are facing the hybrid war, and there are attempts by Russia to destabilize the situation in Moldova. And the fact that we have the Transnistrian region problem, and we have the illegal Russian troops stationing there for decades, of course, this increases the security risks for my country.
And you say hybrid warfare. I just wondered if you can expand on that. And we know, for instance, that Russia is cutting off and severely restricting your access to gas and energy. And I think you depend almost entirely on energy from there. And as you said, there have been, I don't know, debris and fallout from missiles that have actually hit your territory. Tell me how dangerous that is.
Well, the propaganda is part of the hybrid war. Weaponizing energy is part of the hybrid war, and the Russian Gazprom just cut the gas supply to Moldova by 60%, despite the contract that we have and despite the fact that we've been paying despite the very high prices. We have seen that corrupt groups in Moldova together with pro-Russian political forces and supported by Russia, have been organizing protests in Moldova to destabilize the situation. But no matter how difficult it is, we have to find the solutions, and we do get support from our international partners, from our development partners. You know that we had the Moldova Support Platform recently. I am in US these days to ask for more support. and we hope to be able to help our population overcome this difficult winter. We are buying the necessary gas on the market. The problem is that it is very expensive. And just to give you some examples, the tariff for gas in Moldova increased by 7 times in the last 12 months. And the tariff for electricity increased by 4 times again in the last year. This has significant implication on our population because we are the poorest country in Europe and people have low incomes. Also, the fact that Russia attacks the Ukrainian energy network has implications for Moldova, and we have blackouts every time they do bomb the Ukrainian network.
I mean, honestly, it just sounds absolutely awful. And I wonder where you think your protection comes from. You're not a NATO nation, but we just heard recently in their recent meetings, NATO said that it's going to help countries like yours, like Moldova, quote, before it's too late. Secretary General Stoltenberg said, better to support them now rather than see developments that go absolutely in the wrong direction, as we saw with the invasion of Ukraine. What kind of help have you been offered, and has it come your way yet?
We have been cooperating with NATO before, and now the support is becoming bigger. We also receive more support from NATO member countries in order to strengthen our defense capacity. Of course, we cannot do miracles in short time, but yes, we have been making specific requests for our defense sector. And even though we understand that Ukraine is the priority and should be the priority, we hope to receive some support to increase our defense capacity.
And you have actually applied to join the EU, and your candidacy is being reviewed. You decided and were invited along the same time as Ukraine was. Russia, of course, snapped back and said that this was an attempt, as you've heard them say before, to enslave neighboring countries by the EU. Are you worried about Russia's response, or at this moment, do you think it's got too much on its plate to do anything about, these moves?
We are a free country, and it's our decision how we want to develop our country and what model of development we want to apply. And we have been talking for years that the EU integration is our aspiration, and we are very happy that Moldova has received the EU candidate status. It's our decision, and of course the decision of the EU member states, and it's not Russia's business. We believe in the free world, and we believe in the fact that every nation has the right to decide on its fate. We are committed to implement the conditions that were formulated by the European Commission in its letter to the European Council. We have the same commitments towards our population, because this is mainly about justice sector reform. This is about fighting corruption. You know that corruption has damaged my country significantly, and we are taking steps to build proper justice and to have strong and independent anti-corruption institutions. We are also counting on international support so that dirty money would not move around as it did before, and the biggest corruption cases in Moldova happened with the help of some networks of anonymous companies through which the money from Moldova ended up in different jurisdictions. Now we're also asking for help to recover this money, and we hope to have more international cooperation on that. But again, this and other reforms are high on our agenda. We're going to do our best, and it should be our decision, not Russia's decision, how Moldova wants to develop and where Moldova wants to get.
Yeah, I mean, look, those are brave and fighting words, but that's what Ukraine said as well, and look what it got from Russia. And you mentioned, corruption. It's pretty staggering. You said that in 2014, Moldova endured the largest bank fraud in history relative to your GDP. I mean, here it is. Almost 12% of your GDP was stolen in a matter of months. Can you actually do what you're saying now, get your house in order, because your economy and your people desperately need that money.
Well, it's unfortunate that this money was stolen instead of being invested in energy security or in other projects for the country. Now we would have been in a much better situation. But now we have to fix this. Now we have to make sure that this won't repeat in the future. Now we need to do our best to recover this money. It is difficult because of all the crisis situations, because of the energy crisis, because of the refugee crisis that we have to manage. But there is no other way around. This is our choice, and we will do our best. But we do count on the support of our development partners, because it is difficult to achieve all these objectives, to strengthen the resilience of our economy, given the impact of the war and the impact of the war on Moldova's economies.
Yeah. So have you, I mean, bottom line, do you have promises of help from your, as you say, your international partners, the EU, the United States? Let me just say, you mentioned, refugees. Just after the war started, your foreign minister told me that 10% of children in Moldova right now are Ukrainian kids. I mean, is that still the statistic?
Well, some of the refugees left Moldova, but just to give you some figures, since the war, we saw 700,000 Ukrainian refugees entering Moldova, a country of 2.6 million people, which was a huge number. And I'm grateful that the Moldovan people opened their houses and their hearts, and they helped the state provide shelter to the refugees. Today, we have 80,000 Ukrainian refugees in Moldova, and half of them are children. We stay in full solidarity with Ukraine, and we're going to continue to help as much as we can, helping the refugees, helping with the solidarity lanes. Again, Ukraine is defending today Moldova, and we're very grateful for that.
And I would just say, to quote the Estonian Prime Minister, he basically said, for you it's existential, right? If Ukraine loses, you could lose.
Well, this should be understood by everybody, that this is not just about Ukraine. This is about Moldova. This is about the region. And we cannot allow any country not to respect the territorial integrity of its neighbor and of the sovereignty. So Ukraine should be helped to recover its territory, and the war should end.
President Maia Sandu, thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.